This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's Friday, January 1st, 2021. Let me be the first one to welcome you to a new year. It's the Relevant Podcast. Here in Orlando, I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Nashville, Tennessee, our senior editor, Tyler Huckabee.
Hey, everyone.
And once again, on the ones and twos over there, our producer extraordinaire, Clark Flippo, joins us.
Hey, guys.
Well, like we had on the Tuesday show, we are looking back at the year of 2020, at all that happened here on the podcast. The Tuesday episode, we brought you some of our favorite cast moments. And on today's show, we want to bring you some of our favorite guest moments. We have had the privilege of talking to some unbelievably interesting and influential people throughout 2020. The lineup, when we were putting this episode together, there was difficult debates about which segments would make the cut, because it was like a gluttony of riches. I just how do you?
It was actually a really strong year and they're all strong years, obviously. But I think there were a few times where even we try to be. We try to play it cool, and because we are cool. But every now and then we'd get at somebody, something would land, and it'd be like, they want to talk to us like that, and that doesn't always happen. That was really exciting for me. Like, there were some people on here who've been. I think there was a lot of what we call wish list names who've been like, "Man, wouldn't it be cool if this person talked to it?" And more than one landed in 2020. And usually we're lucky if we get one of those a year. It was exciting for me, especially because I got to do a lot of these.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing is I completely agree with you. Mm-hmm. It has been a year of unbelievable guests. We've been making a magazine since 2003, and just it's almost lightning in a bottle sometimes. Getting the right person at the right time with the right message, the right conversation. And this podcast has had quite a few. We're going to bring you some highlights. We'll tell you some behind the scenes stuff. But before we get going, if longtime listeners know this, we record this during Christmas break time. Obviously, it's the holidays right now. And most of the years when I've been recording this best of episode, my son Cohen was hanging out at the office with us. And I would pull him in on the podcast to say hi. And I have done the same here. He is on Christmas break. Please welcome to the Relevant Podcast, Cohen Strang.
Hello there.
Hey, man. So, okay, it's been a couple years since people have heard from you. Mm-hmm. So, okay, what grade are you in now?
Fifth grade.
Fifth grade, 11 years old. How are things going? How's quarantine been treating you?
Pretty fine.
How you had to do homeschooling in the spring, didn't you?
Yes.
How was that?
Torture. It was torture.
Why was it torture? I was your teacher. I made T-shirts that said Strang Academy on them. We took it serious.
I don't know where that.
Nice.
I don't know where mine went though.
It's in my T-shirt drawer.
No,
I saved it.
Cohen, can I ask you a question? Because I was homeschooled kindergarten through my senior year of high school, so I'm
oh my goodness,
a pro.
Wow, that explains so much.
Homeschool. Yeah, I know. Get it out of your system. So I want to ask you, based on my experience of homeschool, Cohen, I just have a few questions that I want to ask you that'll prove your mettle as a homeschooler. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
This is like a pop quiz, kind of. Why did God make America the best country in the whole world?
Is that what you were taught? Is that a Becca curriculum?
Yeah, this is kindergarten. I'm starting off easy for you, Cohen.
So you got to answer the question. Why did God make America the best country in the world? He's slowly backing away from the mic, horses and into the bushes.
Yeah, I get it.
Your school didn't teach you that? So maybe he goes to a good school. He goes to a Christian school.
Strang Academy must be getting infiltrated by some of the cultural Marxists that are out there.
So quarantine was tough, but you survived by video gaming with your friends.
Yes.
And so
every split second that I had between classes, I would just immediately turn around and play video games.
Yeah, that was true.
What was the video game of the year, Cohen? The best video game of 2020?
Fortnite. I think that's most kids' answers.
Yeah, that was the bulk. So. But you've moved on from Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
2K came out. He started playing that. What are you playing now?
Like Rocket League, that stuff.
Yeah, just kind of dipping back into the
Other
ones
games.
the classics that he forgot about while he was so obsessed with Fortnite.
For sure.
And dad was paying way too much money for Fortnite upgrades. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, buddy. This is our annual tradition. You saying hi to the podcast listeners.
Yes.
All right. Well, moving the show along, back in July on episode 809, July 9th, we had one of Hollywood icon now, David Oyelowo, joined us for a powerful conversation.
Yeah, and this is actually super timely since Oyelowo just had a new movie come out on Christmas Day, The Midnight Sky. That's him. That's George Clooney. So obviously the guy is never hurting for roles. But this was a fun one because David Oyelowo at the time wasn't really promoting anything. This was kind of early on in the pandemic. It was over the summer. But his heart was just really heavy with what was happening with the Black Lives Matter movement at the time.
We saw on social media, he was posting things. He's a strong Christian. At one point, he was in the ministry, and we saw things that he was saying that was so powerful online. And we just reached out to say, will you come on the podcast and talk about it?
And I think I said before we started recording, this was maybe the one that stuck with me the longest this year was my conversation with David. I've spoken to him a number of times. He's a friend of Relevant, friend of the pod, and I always enjoy conversations with him. He is an immigrant from the UK. He, in fact, he's now an American citizen. Just this year, he and his family were naturalized, and But what he had to say, the amount of heartbreak in his voice over how he has seen the American church respond to the protests. The sort of incredulousnto I think it's one thing if you've been raised here in the U.S. to understand kind of how white supremacy and the church work together here. But to hear him as an outsider who is black and is obviously has done very well. He's a very successful actor, but to still find him to be so overwhelmed with, I'll say, pain and heartbreak over how his brothers and sisters in the church have responded to what he saw as this movement was it was very, very moving.
You know him from starring roles in Selma, Queen of Katwe, The Butler, Lincoln, a lot of others. Here's part of our conversation with David Oyelowo talking about the inaction of church leadership on the topic of racism and a lot more.
Something I think that a lot of people have found in trying to speak out about Black Lives Matter is that they are often associated then with a certain political ideology. What would you say to people who they care, they want to speak out about this, but they don't want to be associated with certain partisan ideologies that they may not necessarily agree with?
I would say you just have to look at Jesus. Jesus did not subscribe to any political party. He was a law-abiding citizen, but he never subscribed to the to Rome. He never subscribed to the Pharisees. He never subscribed to any. He said, I only do what my father tells me to do effectively. And Dr. King was the same. He knew that the potency of his voice as connected to God would be eroded if he subscribed to any political party. And I just don't know how the church in America has fallen into the trap of being tied to a political party. I'm not saying for a moment that, there aren't political parties that espouse Christian values more than others, but Jesus came for all men and women, and he came not just he came for those who were broken, those who were the sinners. He spent more time with people who were on the fringes of society than the rich or the political. If we as the church are to remain relevant to all people, we cannot be seen to be tied to one political party.
I think that there has been sort of an uprising of people who do care about racism and want to talk about racism, but you still get the sense that they think that it's something sort of happening out there. They aren't really addressing the racism that might be happening in their church pews, their leadership, their organizations. What do you think repentance actually looks like on a practical level for us?
There is nothing for us as the church, as Christians, that is going to be more effective than to go to the foot of the cross and pray for God's mercy to expunge some of this foundational sin that has been woven into this country. Repentance, Christianity is built on what Jesus did on the cross. And the only way you have salvation is to admit that you are wrong, Christ is right, and his blood invites you to share in that righteousness, in that rightness. And America, in my opinion, is on the wrong side of righteousness and rightness, especially when it comes to race. Now, I live here. I've lived here for 13 years. I'm raising children who are American. I'm an American citizen myself. Don't get me wrong. I love America, and I do think it's one of the greatest nations, not only in the world, but that has ever been in the world. But there is something wrong in and with America, and the church is tied into that. And if the church is tied in politically, it gives the devil legal ground on which to keep us in this cyclical place of pain instead of redemption. We all know as Christians personally what happens when we give our lives to Christ. Something miraculous happens. And that's why we're going up against principalities and powers in the high places. So for me, it's about nothing would be more incredible than the church coming together and having a day of repentance, making Juneteenth a day where the church spearheads, where we as Christians go, dear God, forgive us for the foundational sin on which this country was built. Help us to be better going forward than we have been in the past. But there is so much pride, so much ego, and it is born out of white supremacy that currently feels far away, even though I think individuals would love to see that. When you bring us together corporately, politics and pride become a factor that is stopping us taking that step into repentance communally.
Well, the pandemic proved to be a challenging time for many, but especially for artists, for music artists that really not only, in this current economy, they make their living by touring. And so many artists were cooped up at home. They were trying to find ways to continue to make art, but also, interact with their fans and engage their fans. One of the coolest things we saw happen was what Johnnyswim ended up doing this year with their weekly Instagram thing, Songs with Strangers. Abner and Amanda would interview a fan. They would learn their story. This was all on IG, and they would learn their story, and then they would write a song together, about the person's story and with the person. And it was a crazy thing to see. And then they would perform it, and they put out a collection of them, and they're all phenomenal. And to be able to participate and see it live happen in front of your eyes was really cool.
Yeah, and I thought I always appreciate hearing from them about, they have so much going on. They're becoming sort of media moguls in their own right, but their creative process remains really pure and really fun to hear them talk about. So I enjoy them a lot, and really enjoyed getting to pick their brains on this particular project.
From episode 808 on June 26th, how appropriate, 808 was a music guest. June 26th, here's our conversation with Johnnyswim.
Those little things that I hold
So you kind of started this as a lark, right? You didn't think maybe there'd be, it wouldn't end up being that big of a deal?
It was a complete shock where it ended up going. We started thinking we'd write little ditties. And the first person we talked to, Maddie Stanitsky from Atlanta.
Yeah.
Maddie Stanitsky from Atlanta, dating a guy named Christian, who at the time lived in San Antonio, Texas. And she just, hey, how you doing? Just quarantining, this, stay-at-home orders. Are there stay-at-home orders? Yeah, it's been really tough. Well, why has it been tough? Boom. My fiance lives in San Antonio. We were going to move to California. I teach, Maddie was telling us, I teach specialized students here in Georgia, so I didn't want to leave them until the last possible moment. I wanted to make sure I saw it through this school year, but now I'm not in the class with them. It's a hard time to connect. My fiance was moving.
They're not fiancés yet.
They are now in real life.
Now they are for life.
My boyfriend, we were going to meet in LA.
It was because of the song. Now they're engaged.
We were going to meet in California and, plan the rest of our lives. He is military. He had moved off base, but couldn't fly into California because they had closed down. So he's stuck in a hotel room for the indefinitely in San Antonio, can't get to California. I can't get to him. He can't get to me.
All this stuff is in boxes.
And all we can do is wait. And the song took life with that. I would even say it took flight. It wasn't just, sometimes you sit here, a man and I have written countless songs together. And we'll sit, and as humans, there's all kinds of inspiration that happen, the stories you hear, your own life, the stories that evolve and are created through your own experience. And sometimes you sit to write, and it's like, all right, I know we got an album to make. What are we going to write about? And you spend a lot of time trying to feel something. And we realized this, writing with Maddie that day, we just skipped to third base in songwriting because we had all the emotion we wanted was there. We both were on the same page. It had language to it already. And this song just kind of came tumbling out of us.
There's nothing sure but you, and that makes it harder. All that we can do is wait.
What I love about this is how this isn't really something that you could have done without quarantine. This is something you really needed a lockdown to do.
The wow factor for me of what I expected from Songs of Strangers to what we got doesn't just include the songs, all our super talented friends that donated their time to be a part of it. It includes what happened in me being a part of it. Our journeys are completely bespoke to us. You can't compare yours to someone else's because that's completely theirs. And yours is completely yours. And that thought was just so driven home even more doing Songs of Strangers because none of these songs would exist without the people we wrote them with. Could we have written a song that day? Yes. Would we have written those songs? Absolutely not. There's a 0% chance that we write Still Wonderful if it's not with Rebecca Gore. There's a 0% chance we write Wait without Maddie Stanitsky. There's a 0% chance of all those things. And it really got me so fired up with the importance of each of us. We are the singular expression of God himself on this planet. We are a singular expression of God himself on this planet. He don't do it again. He won't be like, all right, that was a cool Abner in 2020. We need to do another one. It's 3,219. Let's get another Abner in there, see if he can do it better. There's just not. There's us. We're all we have of us. And how special and unique this walk is, this life is. I'm better because of the strangers I met on Instagram Live.
Still wonderful. Still wonderful. Ain't it still wonderful? Somehow. Still wonderful. Still wonderful.
Well, we want to let you know that today's Best of 2020 episode is brought to you by UHSM. These days, finding affordable, quality healthcare is more difficult than ever. So if you're looking to save up to 50% on your healthcare expenses, listen up. You don't have to wait around hoping healthcare will improve in the U.S. Instead, join millions of Christians who are choosing health share memberships like UHSM. UHSM is a nonprofit Christian health share with a sole mission of helping you achieve your best health. Protect your health with modern health sharing from UHSM, including programs with prescription benefits from CVS Caremark, no-cost telehealth visits, and access to 1 million doctors and providers. Satisfy your medical needs and save up to 50% with UHSM Health Share. It's member-to-member health sharing. It's awesome. See why millions are choosing this Christian alternative to traditional insurance. You can ask if you qualify for UHSM membership today by calling or texting 833-367-8476. That's 833-367-UHSM, or visit uhsm.com/care. That's uhsm.com/care. I have sent many friends to that website, and we very much appreciate their support of the show this year. Well, one of the effects we saw this year from the pandemic was the impact on local churches. There were those that kind of refused to abide by quarantine recommendations and kept gathering. And then there were others that pivoted to more of a virtual experience. Well, it was a topic of conversation that a lot of church leaders were having. And in July, we reached out to one of our favorite thinkers and theologians, N.T. Wright. He's written over 70 books. He's been compared to C.S. Lewis. He's one of the most brilliant thinkers in the church today. And Tyler got the chance to sit down with them to talk about the proper Christian response to lockdown.
He is not necessarily known for like weighing in like with hot takes on social issues. You know, he's a nerd. He likes to think about theological stuff, but he felt like this was a very important issue, and so he did have some thoughts on it. And he's also just you wouldn't necessarily know him from his writing, but he's a very funny, winsome, charming person. It was a fun conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Here from episode 810 on July 10th is part of our conversation with N.T. Wright.
So lament is one of the things that your book talks about. Can you tell me about some of the other things that you think the church needs to start doing during the coronavirus pandemic? The role of Christians should be right now.
One of the things that I was really struck by when I was working on this book is a passage in T.S. Eliot's Four Quartets, the great poem written during the Second World War, when Eliot realized that all the kind of knee-jerk reactions of what we should hope for in terms of victory in the war or whatever weren't getting to the heart of the darkness. It was just, oh, please let's stop the nonsense and go back to life as normal. And he says, and he's quoting from a great Christian writer from an earlier century, he says, I said to my soul, be still and wait without hope, for hope would be hope for the wrong thing. Wait without thought, for you are not yet ready for thought. That's hugely important, because I think one of the things I detected was, and I've seen this again and again actually, is that people were wanting to find a rationalist explanation. We can see why God is doing this. And the line would go, God must be sovereign, so he's either decreed this or at least allowed it. And if we understand God, we ought to be able to see why he's decreed it or allowed it. And so there's no mystery anymore. We just get on. Okay, here it is. Here's the answer. And Eliot is saying to us, and I think the Psalms are saying to us, not so fast. Let's have some humility here. Let's have a season of waiting and lamenting and struggling. And out of that may come something which at the moment we are morally and emotionally incapable of seeing. And it might, I don't want to be too optimistic. Some people have been saying, oh, we will emerge from this as a kinder, wiser society. Well, don't hold your breath. We've had other crises before. We had 9/11. We had the banking crash 10 or 12 years ago. And we didn't actually emerge from either of those as a kinder, wiser society. We're just more confused and more angry about all sorts of things and more worried. And it would be wonderful to think that we might learn some lessons from this. And maybe we still will, but they won't come from the knee-jerk reactions. So the point about the Romans 8 passage is that when the Spirit is groaning within us, with inarticulate groanings, the next verse is crucial. Romans 8:28, people have often quoted it in the King James Version, where it says that we know that all things work together for good to those who love God. That's not what the Greek that Paul wrote means. What Paul wrote means we know that God works all things together for good through those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. And that through goes with that sense of living with the pain and the puzzle and allowing the Holy Spirit to lament within us. That's what it means to be caught up in the love of God, not just in a blissful being bathed in God's love, though that happens from time to time, but the love of God is the anguished love of God for his wounded and struggling world. That's what we can see in the story of Jesus weeping at the tomb of his friend. That's what we can see in the Garden of Gethsemane. This Christian faith thing is a lot more mysterious and often a lot more dark than we in the modern West have wanted to make it. And it's by inhabiting that kind of space that then God may work through his people in quite new ways. But in the nature of the case, we at the moment can't see too much of what that might be.
Well, this was a great year for streaming. A lot of great streaming shows hit a bunch of different platforms, not just Netflix. We saw the emergence of HBO Max and Apple TV Plus. One of the shows that kicked off Apple TV Plus this spring was an animated series by the makers of Bob's Burgers called Central Park. It starred Kristen Bell, Princess Anna, and Josh Gad, Olaf, as characters on the series and show creators. I mean, they were part of the show origination. And guess what? On May 29th, episode 804, Tyler got the chance to talk to Kristen Bell and Josh Gad. You know, just a couple of A-listers.
It's actually my first celeb Zoom situation. One of my very first Zoom situations because it was so early on in all of this. So it was my first chance to not just talk to not just chance to talk to A-listers, but you get a little window into their world. You know, you see Kristen Bell's kids running around in the background, and you see Josh Gad's. So I'll say surprisingly decked out Frozen swag Zoom room. I don't know if that's his whole house or just where he chose to set up. He has a bunch of Olaf gear around, but I like the show a lot, so it was fun to talk to him about this.
Here's part of our conversation from episode 804 with Kristen Bell and Josh Gad.
The thing that I'm obsessed with about Central Park is it's the great equalizer. You can be the richest person in the world or the poorest person in the world. But when you're in that park, you're on an equal playing field. And the park shouldn't exist. It should not exist. And yet here it is in the midst of steel. And you're taken to this place where anything is possible. That to me felt like the magic that we wanted to bring to this series.
So then Kristen Bell, who was also on the call, her friend and colleague Josh's story kind of spurred a little memory of her own. And as somebody who also was very enchanted by Central Park, and the first time I was there, I thought that this story was also very winsome as well.
I mean, I went to NYU, so I went to school in the city, and I remember growing up in Detroit and in Michigan, where there's as you get on the outskirts, there's a ton of land and backyards that are just overgrown and you can run around. And I was missing that a little bit in the concrete jungle, yet I was incredibly thrilled to be 18 years old and studying musical theater. And there's something very, very special about this paradox that is Central Park, and that it shouldn't exist there. And it is an equalizer, but you're able to fulfill sort of both parts of your personality, or at least I was, where I was ready to be a working woman and living in an apartment on a walk up on floor 4, and yet I sort of yearned for a little bit more Michigan, and then I could go to the park and that could happen. To me, it's a celebration of which our show is as well, this celebration of diversity, because there's two different lands right next to each other coexisting, and I dare you to find a person in New York City who can't make an argument that you need them both.
Something I think this show does really well is appeal to a wide audience. I think we're used to kids' entertainment. We're used to entertainment for grown-ups. And if something is for a whole family, it tends to be kind of for kids, but there's little jokes that only the adults get. This show, I really felt like was made with families in mind, something that targets really every age group. I loved it, but I didn't feel at all strange about watching it without kids. But I could easily see kids having a blast watching Central Park. I was curious about the challenge privilege of writing something for that broad of an audience, and they were able to talk about it.
I wanted to show that I could celebrate with my kids. Something akin to Bob's Burgers, which, my co-creator, Lauren Bouchard and Nora Smith, both also had a hand in creating. And I wanted it to be a show that celebrated life, that celebrated passion, that celebrated perseverance in the face of adversity, a show that celebrates, all those things that make us so human. And we didn't feel the need to rely on crass humor or to there's the occasional poop joke, I'm not going to lie, but we felt like we wanted something that really could be the essence of co-viewing at a time when there are fairly limited options, where you love something, but maybe your kids don't, or your kids love something, but maybe you don't. Well, we wanted something for everyone to love. And I hope we accomplished that.
Well, one of the good things that happened in 2020 was the reemergence of one of our favorite worship artists, Cory Asbury. He, after his mega hit Reckless Love exploded a couple years ago, like the peak. I mean, like this guy is like the hottest thing in worship music. He just decided to go away. And this year he released a follow-up album finally. And we got to talk to him about it and how personal it was and everything that happened over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to get quite as, for it to be as emotional as it really was. He told us some really powerful story about he and his dad that I don't think I was expecting. And if you don't know Cory, maybe you're not necessarily expecting either. He's extremely deep thinker, extremely empathic as a person. Appreciated his vulnerability with me on this topic.
Yeah, if you follow him on Instagram, he's hilarious. Mm-hmm. And he's just a funny dude. And so I think we were expecting that Cory to show up. And this is such a personal project for him. We saw a different side of him. Here's part of Tyler's conversation with Cory Asbury.
Canyons wide, oceans deep, can't contain all your love for me. No matter how high or far I reach, there's no end to your love for me.
Because of where many of the songs were written and the heart space and the head space that they came from, they felt like very sort of introspective, reevaluating, reassessing my life, and even going back to a lot of times myself as a kid, what I experienced as a young person, even as a young man, even as a boy. So I wanted the sound to kind of reflect that and even have like an 80s-ish vibe, because I was born in 85. So I wanted it to reflect that. So I kept using the word nostalgic. I even wanted like horns and stuff and a lot of, these sounds that conjure up real deep emotions.
'Cause you take good care of me. You take good care of me. You know what I need before I even ask a thing. And you hold me in your hands with a kindness that never ends. I'm carried in your love no matter what the future brings. Yeah, you take good care of me.
And then in 19, when we kind of let all that go, it felt like I got some space and could really sort of, again, like it was introspective in a way, going, okay, where am I failing? Where am I weak? Where am I vulnerable? Where am I falling short? And really just kind of be honest with myself first and then go, okay, I'm going to bring this to you, Father, like help me with this. Give me wisdom, speak it into this area. It was really good in just creating space in my head to think, to just ponder life and kids and joy and happiness and depression and all these things that we deal with as humans. It felt like I had some space to really process and to invite God into and speak into some stuff that I was dealing with and experiencing. And it was very helpful, actually.
And I believe in rivers
There's a song about my dad that's just titled I'm Sorry that I have been trying to write for probably 7 or 8 years. And it has just eluded me. And I think part of it was where we were at with our relationship. My dad and I had a very strained relationship when I was a kid, all the way through, my teens and then probably early 20s even. Really difficult relationship. We didn't connect. We're still not close. We're trying to work on that now and even communicate toward that end. But I've been trying to write this song that's basically an apology to my dad for my immaturity, my ignorance, my stupidity, you fill in the blank, for the way that I was, especially as a teenager, the way that I pushed him away and just sort of despised his voice into my life for a number of reasons. But this song was tough to write, I think, just because it's such an emotional thing. It's such a deep feeling. It's when it's you and your dad for real, like there can be some baggage there. There can be some hurt, some wounds. And I think wading through that to say what I wanted to say was definitely difficult. And it took forever to write. And I'm very happy with it. And I'm very proud of it because of the healing that it's brought between my dad and I. I showed it to him when it was just like a little thing on my acoustic when I finally finished it. And it was incredible, man. And my mom and dad happened to be in town just right after I finished it. And I remember showing him, and he wept the entire time. I mean, it prompted all these, it was incredible. It prompted these conversations that brought so much healing just through a song, and it wasn't a song like, Holy Spirit, you're amazing, or like, Jesus, you're so worthy. It was the song to my dad and about our relationship. And it was incredible the way the Holy Spirit used it, even though it wasn't like a worship song,
Is this what growing up's supposed to look like? Thought I'd be learning how to love instead. I've only learned to fight. But I was only trying to walk beside you. I guess my pride got in the way. But if I ever caused you pain, could I be the first to say that I'm sorry?
Well, back in February, do you remember February? It was before the world changed.
100 years ago.
We had a new book came out by one of our favorite faith leaders, Beth Moore. It was called Chasing Vines, and it was talking, and she talked to us about like how God is there for us in our best moments and our worst ones. And what's interesting hearing this conversation is how startling things honestly changed, and how even her platform and her message even kind of evolved after March.
Yeah, we had no way. I always like talking to Beth. She's such a wise person and so much fun to talk to. But we really had no way of knowing at the time what a pivotal figure she would become in the sort of the Christian conversation in 2020. Although she at the time, and she talks about this, was already sort of fending off a lot of people who viewed her as getting too socialist or whatever words they would use for her. But it was definitely a different time for the world and a different time for Beth's career.
Here's part of our conversation from episode 780 from February 4th with Beth Moore.
Because I think that's something that people say a lot. They say, the hard times made me appreciate the good times more, or they helped me grow better. You hear that cliche a lot, but it's so different when you realize it, when you actually go through those things and you experience that. Is that something that you feel like you've been able to explain in this book?
Because I am the age that I am and I've lived a lot of life, I'd like to turn from a different angle with it, because I think it is really easy to go to those cliches. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you, some of it was so hard that I thought I couldn't bear it. I thought it was too much. There were just a couple of years ago, we had a dynamic in our family that I thought, I don't know how this is sustainable. I don't know how we are going to bear this in the long term. And God has been so faithful, but I don't like to throw around words. I even feel weird about it. I don't like aphorisms. I don't like that kind of stuff, because the reality is people are living with some grueling stuff. But I'm going to tell you how I see it. And this is a very big deal in the book. I think we keep feeling pressured to come up with the saying, it was all worth it. And I don't think that's necessary or the point. What I do absolutely promise somebody, based on the authority of the word, is that in his gracious and merciful hands, God can make everything matter. And that's where the fruit bearing comes in. This is what I will tell you. Not one thing, given any time at all, that I've gone through, including my sexual abuse, including the instability of my home, including having made some disastrous relational decisions along the way, including all of the trash, all the manure. I will tell you, anything given enough time, and I'd say that I can't really put a date with it, but I would say even over a year's time, God has made all of it matter.
I wanted to ask you, and this is a little bit of a change of pace, but something that I really admire about your social media presence is your graciousness and your kindness to people who don't always seem like they would warrant or are not looking for a gracious, kind response. That's something that we don't have a lot of, something that I don't have a lot of. Do you have any just like quick practical tips for people who feel like they lose their patience online easily on how to maintain a little more of a loving, gracious stance?
Yes, we got to have a real life thing going with God where we are asking him when we are under constant duress, Lord, I need you to help me. I need you to help me to be loving to people and be patient to people. So that stays on my radar. That's something I'm praying about. I thank God to be able to say, Tyler, I'm a happy person. So I naturally like people. I don't naturally not like people. Yeah. I naturally like people. Then there are some that I'm caught off guard. I'm thinking like, ooh, I really don't like you. But it's not very often. But let me tell you something, Tyler, just as soon as you've asked me this question, it'll be no time at all till I'll have acted so ugly to where every now and then I can't help myself. I just absolutely can't help myself. And so what I would say to you then is say you're sorry and delete it. That's the best way. What we've got to learn to do, since all of us now have a mic, everybody does, and especially on Twitter, because it really is words based, and that's what I love. I love dialogue. I like it more than monologue. I like to get into a discussion with people. I even like a debate as long as it's decent. Sure. I don't need people to agree with me. I but you don't have to be a bully and tell me that you wish my plane would fly into a mountain. These are things that are just untoward. But we have to, if we're going to be out there, if we're going to be in that heat, we have to know what we signed up for. We better be ready for it. We're going to get criticism, and we're just going to have to deal with it and not get in there with them. And I think the last thing I'll say about it is find people. And this is one way I found you, Tyler. You're one of those for me. And I could name 30 people off the top of my head that are this to me, that I so much enjoy that they just make it so worth it.
Well, I got to say, one of my favorite discoveries this year, and this isn't to say that they started this year, they've been going for a while, but this movement had been building, was the discovery of Maverick City Music. They are doing something in the worship space that has never been done before. To watch their videos, to hear their music, it's kind of like this mix of Bethel improv with gospel undertones, with hipsters and urban, and like it's just so interesting, and it's pulling from so many different streams. It's doing something really fresh and organic and original in the worship space. They're based out of Atlanta. It started in 2016 as a small house church, and then they started doing writing camps for songwriters, and that's where this thing sparked. It became a place to make space for this unlikely fusion of worship styles because of everybody who was gathered in the room. It breaks the worship music mold. We put them on our debut cover for the new era of Relevant that came out in September. And also in June, we talked to them here on the podcast.
And it was so, part of the job is listening to lots of really good worship music, and I really enjoy that. But it is rare to hear something that really just makes you sit up and say, wow. And that's what the Maverick City folks did. And also just their hearts for this and for their understanding of their place in the current worship music moment is so humble and also so wise. They have a lot of wisdom to offer, and they offered it to me and to the podcast.
There you go. So this was the podcast introduction to Maverick City Music from episode 805 on June 5th. Here it is.
You said I'm not too far away. It was a miracle. It was a miracle you did in my heart.
As much as it's like blesses people, like it blessed us first, because it was a place for us to be like, wow, like I could be myself. And as like just because I'm a Black female singer doesn't mean I have to be like sound like Mahalia Jackson, or, you know, like there's, and what people don't realize that even in the gospel community, there is, you know, distinction made between like the way you sing. And if you sing gospel enough, or if you have enough grit or growl in your voice, and then, you know, if you have like, I have a more, which I can go there, you know, but I have like a more of a, like a pure kind of like, you know, straight tone kind of voice. And then it's like, okay, well, you sound like you belong like in the CCM world, but then it's like, am I welcome in the CCM world? You know, there's a lot of that. But when we came on with Mav, it was just us like worshiping, and we could be ourselves. And I could, you know, growl sometimes and, you know, like just sing sweet and pure, and that was okay.
Now I can see your love is better than all the others that I've seen, and I'll bleed deep.
To be a little controversial. I think as just an industry, the purpose of it is to create for a certain type of audience. So I think the way the industry is set up, because of the way our nation is set up, we have different industries for different audience. So you have your Dove Awards and you have your Stella Awards. And then you have the Grammys. So it's like, we have to have categories. Well, the industry's mindset is like, yo, we have to have categories, because if we don't, people are not going to know what we want to present to them. So even like one of the first run-ins we had with Billboard, one of the first records, they tried to put it out as a gospel record because I was Black and I was on it. And we were like, why is this gospel? Like, why do you categorize this as gospel? And it's not even anywhere along gospel lines. So it's really having those hard conversations. I think the way we do is having those hard conversations with people, with the industry. Like, yo, I know this is probably how you've been doing it. This is what you feel, but this is not what this is. And the reason I love Maverick is because the way I call it, it's so unmanicured. It's so like you don't know what to do with it. You can't try to put it in a box. It is what it is. And I think what it's doing is challenging those lines. Like, hey, just because a Black guy is leading a CCM song, is that, what do we do? It's like, it sucks that we have to have that conversation, but it's just a real thing that I feel like the Lord is using Maverick to like highlight, like, hey, this is a thing. Like, is music about color? Is music about what you're saying?
We believe it. If you said it, we believe it.
Maverick City music. So we're already coming out on like rebels with a cause, like we're already saying, hey, this is not what you expected. This is not what you're used to, but this is what we are. And I think that in itself speaks for itself. I don't think that we've purposely sat down and said, we're going to hatch a plan to do things to make sure that it's not like that. But I think that with the name and with the types of songs that are sung with the people who lead, I think there's intention behind that. We have one of the only brown, and when I say brown, I mean Indian, worship leader. You don't see that.
Feel the room, feel the room. Feel the room, feel the room. Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit. Feel the room, feel the room. Feel the room, feel the room.
Well, today's episode is brought to you by podcast creation platform Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor yet, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's free. There are custom tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and every major platform. The cool thing is you can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Tyler referenced at the beginning of the show that this year was an unusual year for A-list guests on this podcast. Having done the magazine for so long, it takes a lot of work and a lot of decision makers and gatekeepers to say yes to land an interview with a celebrity that has a massive platform, has something to say to Relevant, and has maybe this deeper story that we want to tap into. Then one day I got an email to info@relevantmagazine.com that said, would you like to have Matthew McConaughey on your podcast? And we're like, what?
Thought it was fake. Really did think it was fake. Didn't. I thought this was a Nigerian prince situation.
We really did. And so it ended up being the real deal. He had a new book coming out called Green Lights this year. And he went on a media blitz, and Relevant was part of that blitz. You saw him, a long profile that we did on the cover of our November issue of Relevant. Fascinating piece. But we had him here on the podcast to coincide with the launch of that issue and that cover story. He tells us about his faith journey. I found out that Matthew McConaughey is a church-going Christian. I had no clue.
And usually it's when you're talking to people who are this famous, it can be a little bit like pulling teeth. There's a lot of rules that they send you things about what you can and can't ask before you get in there. And getting them to talk about their spiritual life is obviously a very touchy subject for a lot of very famous people. This guy was an open book. There was no, we went everywhere in the sun. And I just started dreaming up questions that weren't even on my list. Just like, well, if he's willing to talk about that, maybe he'll talk about this. And he did. We went everywhere. I think I told Cameron this after the interview. I think it was my favorite one that I've ever done.
We knew from the initial email, the first email said, he wants to talk to Relevant about his faith journey. And we were like, what? Yeah. And he did. He went there. From the November 6th episode 837, if you want to go back and check it out, here's part of our conversation with the one and only Matthew McConaughey.
Something you bring up a lot in the book is the tension that you feel between self-reliance and God, who is divining our path and has a plan for us. Can you unpack that tension you feel a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm a believer. I believe in God. I also have seen people and have had times in my life where I think I took advantage of it's all fate. It's what's going to happen is going to happen. It's all been written. And I've seen other people do it, but I myself have gone to where I let myself off the hook in ways and became irresponsible in ways because it was kind of too quickly to forgive. Oh, don't worry. No, it's all right. I had a time where I had a couple of very agnostic years, and they weren't as much about disbelieving. They were more about, hey, quit chalking things up to fate, Matthew. You have your hands on the wheel. You're responsible for your decisions. That's why you got free will. You make the choice for yourself. Your hands are on the wheel. I did find this out, that when I've been in the places where, you know, I call it the Google eye, God's eye in the sky, and I look at Earth and I look at our little dot we are on the planet, and the world's turning, and we're that little individual on the planet, and you go, oh my gosh, I'm like nothing. None of what I do matters. That place of humility is actually where I realized, oh, it all matters. There's a great empowerment that comes with that. And now I've struggled with the definition of humility and vulnerability all my life. The best one I've heard was from a man named Jordan Peterson. Humility is owning that you have more to learn. You know, I learned this at a monastery in some readings of Thomas Merton about, you know what, if you're really trying, I do believe God loves a trier. You know, he's like, hey man, just at least you're putting in the effort to try and take some self-ownership for yourself, to be self-reliant, to understand the value and the reality of self-determination amongst this world that I've got that God has the strings to.
So basically, seek and you shall find, right? That there's sort of a reward just for seeking, a spiritual reward just for seeking.
I believe so. And I mean, look, whenever, it's like I talk about when people try to dislocate science and God. Science to me has always been the practical pursuit of God. It's not going to ever prove God. That doesn't mean you quit doing science. There's the seeking. In my life, times that I've felt the most found, I've learned to take advantage of that clarity and really trust in it and try and evolve as a spiritual being in that. But I've also learned that there's no ta-da moments that are everlasting in this life where you go, I got it. You know what I mean? I've got a direct line. It's clear. Those paths, even when our garden is so full of the most beautiful flowers and everything that, that springs eternal, we have to tend our weeds. We have to water that garden. It takes work. It takes breaking a sweat. It takes falling down. One of the favorite pictures in my mind that I've always seen, I've never seen the picture. I've just heard it said, but it has a very clear picture in my mind. And it's, the pastor had said it one day in church, and it was the individual in his small house imploding, just going through all the hardships, the shaking the devils off his back and the monkeys, and he was just frustrated. He couldn't go, and life was getting dark. And just outside his door, the one door to his one room that he's in, stands Jesus. The door, though, only has one doorknob, and it's on the inside. And I love that image of that. Now he's there, but self-determination, we have to open the door. We have to grab the doorknob. It's up to us to grab the doorknob and open the door.
Well, back in March, late March, is when most parts of the country, or more the urban parts of the country, big cities, were dealing with the beginning wave of the COVID pandemic. And a lot of churches in mid-March, I remember here where I'm at in Orlando, is March 15th specifically, that everything sort of shut down. All the theme parks, churches stopped meeting. It all changed on March 15th. Well, on the March 24th episode, which is just a week or two later, we ended up talking to Judah and Chelsea Smith. They're the pastors of Church Home. And famously, about a year or two ago, they pivoted their large local gatherings in Seattle and LA, and I think they're in Guadalajara as well. They pivoted toward more of a focus on small group community in the local context, and then gathering virtually for the kind of the Sunday gatherings. It was criticized by a lot of people. It was seen as odd. This isn't really church. Like they caught a lot of flack for that. And then all of a sudden in late March, every church in America is trying to figure out how to pivot toward virtual. So we wanted to talk to Judah and Chelsea. We wanted to give them the mic and let them say, "We told you so." This was that conversation.
Yeah, and they didn't take the bait. You know, I asked them straight up. They've like, does this feel like an "I told you so" moment? And they very kindly declined to do that, because even we had talked to them when Church Home started and asked them some tough questions. And they responded then, and they responded now, and they were ahead of the moment, and it ended up working out really well for them.
They think that the old normal model, quote unquote normal, is gone for good.
Never coming back.
And this conversation kind of taps into that. For March 24th, episode 792, here are Judah and Chelsea Smith.
There's this concept that if you look at church history, Christians are famous in regards to love and how we've expressed our love. Obviously not perfectly, not flawlessly. There's been a lot of really difficult historical moments in church history where the church actually has used the name of Jesus to control, manipulate, marginalize, etc. But there's much history that records for us, I think, for our admonition, that where there is pain, where there's problem, we move towards it. And I think there is quarantines going on. For instance, I'm currently in Los Angeles, and the governor has spoken again, as have many of the local mayors. Hey, listen, we're asking you to stay inside unless it is absolutely categorically essential that you go somewhere, such as the hospital or food or water. And so we're effectively on, one of the largest states in the United States of America is now we are all asked to stay in our homes, right? So it's wild. It's this moment of going like, whoa, how does this work? We have ministries and outreaches within our church to people that don't have homes, people that don't have food. How do we minister? How do we get those people those resources? And I think that's something that if anyone has the exact answer for, they're not being incredibly honest and truthful. I think it's something we're going to have to navigate. I feel like the world's changing by the hour. The world's changing by the minute. The state of things are changing. I think it's important for us to honor those that we have put in decision-making roles for our cities, our states, and our countries, while at the same time making every effort we can, led by the love of Jesus and the grace of God, to add value to people. So how are we going to do that? What are innovative ways that we can do that? How can we spread love? I'll just be honest. I've had more interaction with my neighbors over the last few days, just quote unquote over the fence. How are you? Are you good? We love you. How can we, again, forgive me for what I'm about to say, but, asking our friends, our neighbors, literally my next door neighbor, and our homes are very close to each other. So it's like, hey, are you good on toilet paper? Are you good on water? I was outside yesterday, my neighbor across the way, I didn't even know that they knew Jesus. And they were like, we love the broadcast today. Our church's doors are closed. Thank you for being open. And her name's Ashley. And I was like, whoa, Miss Ashley, thank you so much. I had no idea that you knew I was a pastor, that you knew I was a preacher. Thank you for watching. So, I think, I'm going to be really bold. I think Christians were really we're kind of known for the big systemized outreaches we do. And that's great. There's so much validity there. But I wonder if sometimes we underplay and overlook a wave, a hello and a hi to a neighbor from our front door. Are you okay? Love you, thinking about you. I know this sounds radical, but what if instead of all Christians everywhere in our country right now or around the world who are like, man, I wish I could go to church or do a ministry or do evangelism or go on a mission trip. Wait a minute. What if we found out the names of our neighbors? What if we just let them know that we're available? If they need anything, we'd love to help them and serve them. And while at the same time try to uphold, some of the stipulations and asks of our government to not spread this disease. I still think there's so many innovative things we can do. They often read very small and seemingly insignificant, but I think they're very important, powerful. And obviously, if you start thinking in the terms of millions of us spreading love, care, and concern like this, I think we'll be shocked at the impact.
Well, we wanted to wrap it up with one of our Mount Rushmore. Tyler mentioned at the beginning of the show, like one of those all-time asks, one of those people that we've been trying to get for years on Relevant, one of our favorite actresses, Hollywood royalty now. I think 2 years ago, she was the number one box office earning actress in the world because she was in so many blockbusters in this 1 year, talking about none other than Letitia Wright. Back in November, she was in our November-December issue of Relevant with long profile and think piece. But you know her from Black Panther. You know her from Ready Player One, Avengers Infinity War. And this fall, she was in a groundbreaking TV series on Amazon Prime called Small Acts. And Tyler got the chance to talk to her.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen Small Acts on Amazon Prime, it truly is one of the best things I saw this year. I would really encourage you to go check that out. I loved this film anthology series. And she's another one, kind of like Matthew McConaughey. You couldn't get her to, you couldn't keep her from talking about her faith. She wanted to talk about being a Christian. And
what was so interesting?
She shared her story about how she became one with us, which was not that long ago.
Right. That was the thing that was not shocking to me, but just like you just don't hear this story very often. You think of if somebody's in Hollywood or they're a true A-list celebrity and they say, yes, I'm a Christian, and they're maybe a little bit outspoken about it, they grew up in the church. You know, it's in them. Maybe they walked away for a little bit. They come back. I'm not talking about Bieber, but you can read between the lines. But, you know, like they grew up in the church. Letitia's story is completely different. She talks about to us, you're about to hear, she talks about the fact that she just came to faith 5 years ago and she's a baby Christian. And you know what's cool about her is that she is more outspoken and bold about her faith than many people that I know that are lifelong Christians. Yeah. There's a passion and a newness to her faith that comes through in this conversation.
Yeah. She talked about being very adversarial to the idea of Christianity when she was younger and was not a fan of the idea. And this was kind of like a last ditch effort when she was not doing well. That's not an easy thing for anybody to talk about, let alone somebody who is, an Avenger. And the fact that she was willing to be vulnerable and honest about that was really meant a lot to me, and I appreciated her going there.
Episode 841 from November 20th. Here's part of our conversation with Letitia Wright.
Ask this, what does prayer look like for you?
Oh man, so I'm like 5 years in the Lord. I'm like a 5-year-old in the Lord. I'm like 5 years, coming up to 5 years and completing 5 years of being a Christian and giving my life to Christ. It's been so many different things and it's like a relationship I'm building with the Lord to understand what prayer is. At first I thought, I pray as I feel. And then secondly, it was just like, I have to pray like at a certain time and at a certain hour. But I'm learning that it's a combination of the two. Discipline has to be there because in order to maintain that relationship and connection, you have to have some sort of discipline. And it's not about how you feel most of the time. It's just about your faith. So I cannot feel like praying, but I know I have to pray in some sort of way. It could be just so then it becomes the way in which I pray when it's time to pray can be creative, if that makes sense. So when it's at night, I might not feel the urge to pray in a particular way that I'm accustomed to. I might just write a poem to the Lord or sing a worship song to him or just speak to him in the silent moments. Yeah, and just learning about the discipline of prayer too, and how important that is because you don't want it to be like a chore or a task, but you want it to be a connection.
Tell me the story there. You became a Christian 5 years ago. What happened? Why did you decide to become one?
The motivating factor mainly for me was that I knew that I wasn't living a life fulfilled. I knew it when I was a teenager. I knew it when I started coming into my early 20s. I just knew that something was missing. I just didn't know that missing puzzle was Jesus. I didn't want anything to do with Jesus, actually. Yeah, didn't want anything to do with it. I just thought the typical kind of prejudice things that you would think about Jesus, especially as a young Black person too. You think, oh man, it's a white guy. I don't want to worship that. And I didn't see him for his purity and his love, and didn't see him beyond color. I just saw him in a prejudiced way. I just saw him in a way that it was just negative thinking from my end. And just the dark place that I was in. And I just kind of saw my other friends take a leap of faith with Christ. And I just kind of, just this sense of peace that they had when I saw them is a peace that you can't buy. And I just knew it off the bat. That's what my life was meant to look like. That's what my spirit is meant to look like. I just knew it. My friend was very beautiful and contacted me in my lowest place, and I just tried. I said, I'll try Jesus for a year, see what happens. And I'm still here, and I'm not going back.
So we told you we had the hardest time selecting those 10 because when you look back at the, I don't know, 80 episodes we put out this year, you've got Neil deGrasse Tyson,
Bob Goff was somebody. Bryce Dallas Howard was on the Hillsong.
Christine Kane,
the Hillsong crew. We love all these
Eugene
people.
Cho, Lecrae. I mean, Stephen Furtick.
Pastor
Torrin
Steve,
Wells.
Yeah.
Brooke Ligertwood, one of our favorite artists. I mean, amazing filmmakers. It's just crazy.
Don't take it personally. We love all these people. We just had to make some tough cuts here at the end.
I mean, some tough cuts. I'm Brian Stevenson.
Yeah.
I mean,
Champ.
Just Mercy.
The champ. Changed the world.
Yeah. Come on. It's crazy. If this year is any indication of what's going on with this show, sign me up. I am excited about where we are. And I just want to say, as a personal note, this is the last episode that we're recording in 2020. You're hearing this on January 1st to kick off a new year. But this is the last episode we're recording. I just want to thank all of you. Clark, you behind the scenes, man, making this thing happen. Tyler, you and Brianna pulling together this amazing content, these amazing guests. To the cast that we get to do this with every week. It's just such a blast and such an honor. And to you listeners who have stuck with us, obviously I started the year on sabbatical and came back in the spring. We had some hard and vulnerable conversations about my story, my journey, where I'm at, where Relevant's going. You guys stuck with us. Tyler, you held this thing down while I was gone, man. And it thrived. This show grew. It's been a wild year and for a lot of reasons, but this show is something that's meant a lot to me, and it's just amazing to see all that's happened.
Well, we love the community out there, the listeners. I really do. We don't always talk about it, but we appreciate all the comments you guys have and the interactions that we have. It's such a fun part of the job, and I appreciate. Obviously, we appreciate Derek and Jamie and Jesse and Clark and Cameron. Obviously, I appreciate you keeping the ship on the rails. Ship on the rails? Maybe that's where we're going wrong. Ship should be in the ocean.
Maybe that's why things have been so hard. I've been trying to drive, sliding the ship down those rails. It's really hard to push that thing, man.
But yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. How bad could it possibly be compared?
hey, it's January 1st. Everything's different now.
Yeah.
By
the time, I can't wait. I'm jealous of the listeners hearing this now. What world they must be living
in. They're living in 2021. Oh, man. And guys, thank you again for everything this year. And we're looking forward to 2021. Tune in on Tuesday. The cast will be back, and we will be with you every Tuesday and Friday. Don't miss an episode. It'll be a lot of fun. Thanks a lot, everybody. With that, I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Tyler Huckabee.
I'm Clark Flippo.
And Cohen is off playing Fortnite. So we'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
Relevant Podcast Network.